Welcome to the Kelly. You got to bring that down. There we go. I was hearing myself talk. I don't need to hear myself talk. You guys get enough of that. We'll start with, if you want to rise, we'll start with Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for participating in our meeting this morning. Commissioner Weber is in the house, but he's on he's been doing court hearings on behalf of Wasac. And so if he gets a break, we might see him out here. Other than not, it's you're stuck with Commissioner Mortensen and I. I will oh. Yeah, I get tired of seeing myself too.
You want me to try this?
Can you turn your camera on?
I didn't have my camera on.
Oh, that's right. You want my camera on? I intended to do that. I was protecting the people.
Yeah. If you want to, as usual, Commissioner Mortensen, minutes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as usual, I reviewed the minutes of the activities last week and I moved to approve those minutes.
Any questions on the minutes? I see nobody. I see no hands. I would call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes pass. Consent agenda. What we have on here today is the first two items refer to the Ostrander Road Culvert Replacement project. We had to secure little bits of property from two different folks. The first one, we secured a warranty deed for 61 square feet of property for $400 or $500. Second one, we secured a warranty deed for a little over 14,000 square feet from Columbia and Cowlitz Railway for $5,700. We have a contract extension with Collins Architectural Group for a wide range of as needed architectural and engineering services. This is our group uses them for doing work on different projects that relate to the roads. This $150,000 was really based on the work we saw that we have ahead of us, the projects ahead of us, and the estimated hours it would take to do that, which I might add, I think was substantially less than the last time around, if I remember right.
Yeah, the last time around was, well, 800,000.
Yeah. And then number 4 on the consent agenda is the signing for the new roof on the Health and Human Services building, which we've had discussions over the last couple of weeks on. We have board correspondence. We have a letter from the Port of Longview to the counties and the cities, and basically the letter was just talking about their international way grade project. You know, and kind of where they're at with that. It's a project that's their schedule on that. You know, they're looking to have 30% design done by May of 23. Funding applications in the 23. Design and permitting somewhere between 25 and 27. Acquisition of needed property between 2026 and 28. And construction, we're not expecting to see anything down between 2028, 29. So it's just a letter explaining to us the process that they're going through on this. And then we had vouchers totaling $4,000,000 for $119,061.70. Any questions on the consent agenda? Hearing none?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I do have a question, on the board correspondence number 5, just wanted to, let people know that, that mostly is in Longview, except the current plans require a little piece of the county.
Yeah, that's a good
And-
point.
And that's always going to become an issue to argue back and forth on. In this case, there's the Port of Longview with interest, and then there are a bunch of local businesses that have, will be impacted, and they're not happy about what they see. So the only reason I tell you all this is so you may see announcements about this, and I'm not sure about the timeline. You know, these things are going to take time. My personal position is always in support of the businesses and the port. In this case, they seem to be in conflict. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. That,
Okay, I don't see any hands. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda as has been presented.
last chance for comments. Hands? Seeing none, I would call for the vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Consent agenda passes. Two motion items on here today. First one is a bid award to Quigg Brothers for the Ostrander Road Culvert. I see Susan coming up.
Good morning, everyone. Susan Eugenius, County Engineer. The first item on your motion is the Ostrander Road Culvert Replacement Project with an award. The Ostrander culvert in question is at milepost 0.61. This is, we refer to it as the triple box to give you a frame of reference. It is the culvert that crosses the North Fork of Ostrander Creek just to the east of McGeary and to the west of the railroad crossing on Ostrander Road. This project will replace the existing triple box with a pre-stressed concrete bridge with an 82-foot span. It will open up approximately 18 miles of habitat for fish once the culvert under the railroad on the North Fork is removed, and that is a Cowlitz Indian Tribe project that is also being funded. We have a funding partner for this project, the Brian Abbott Fish Barrier Removal Board. So we are requesting approval or award of the contract to Quigg Brothers. We opened the bids last Tuesday, April 25th. We received 6 bids, and Quigg Brothers was the lowest responsible bidder at $2,457,651.60, including sales tax.
Perfect. Any questions?
Can you tell us a little what that means to someone who does use Ostrander at the moment?
So to someone who uses it,
Well, there are people who would use Ostrander Road, and when you're doing this work, it'll be closed.
yes, the road will be closed for a brief period while we're replacing the bridge, and we will be opening the bypass. The road crews has already started spiffing that up. We have been out doing vegetation removal, mowing. We're going to put fresh rock down, dust control, and add some additional pullouts. And we will be doing a media blitz with public notices and placing signs once we have the schedule for when that's going to be closed, so we can keep the public well informed.
So short time means a day, 2 days,
No, we're looking at 2 months.
2 months.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Fitness, I think you said yesterday, this qualified for fish barrier removal.
Yes, we have an 85% fish barrier removal board grant. They're paying for 85 and the county is paying for 15%.
15%. Okay. Go ahead.
You mentioned that it was going to open up 18 miles of fish habitat. And are you aware that the Department of Fisheries has a weir before that point, and that no fish would ever migrate up into that area unless they're planning on taking that weir out, but it's like a permanent structure in there.
So this was the 18 miles was the number that we were given by the Department of Fish and Wildlife when we were making this application. They look at the barriers and determine how much additional habitat will be opened.
But if no fish can get to it,
Any other comments?
I do want to ask you to speak on the North Pacific Half Bridge for about that long. Not the bridge, but how much time you take. You had some good news on that, right?
Yes, so the North Pacific Half Bridge, as you know, that has, it's the half bridge crossing the tunnel where the BNSF main line enters the tunnel. That has been closed since about this time last year. We had some issues with the railroad. We have placed pavement last week and the striper is supposed to be in Wednesday or Thursday. We are finishing cleanup, and as soon as that striping is done, we will be reopening the road. So what the hope is Wednesday afternoon. It may be as late as Monday or Tuesday next week if the rain starts up and we can't get the stripe down.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, no hands, call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the bid award proposal to Quigg Brothers as has been discussed.
Last chance. Okay, I call for the vote. All those
Aye.
in favor? Aye. Thanks,
Thank you.
Susan. Mhm. The next one is from the Coroner's Office. We were informed this morning that she wouldn't be able to attend, so I'm not quite sure what to. I can tell you what I know about this, and then we may decide what we want to do because we haven't really had a workshop on it, or we haven't had a chance to talk. Coroner was putting in a request for services from Dr. Emmanuel, I'll probably butcher this name, Lacsina, for forensic autopsies. And basically, this person, we already have a contract with the Dr. Nelson that does that. And he's contracted through October 31st, 2024. We've had him, the contract I saw, I think he's been around at least from 2020, might have been before that time. This new one would be in an as-needed basis when Dr. Nelson is not available. And this request actually terminates January 1st of this coming year, 2024. So it's relatively short term. That's what I know about it.
Yeah, I think that we really should do a workshop before we cast something
Yeah.
one way or the other. Maybe we table it until next week or keep on tabling it until.
Yeah, I would prefer that. I just wanted other input, but
Yeah.
I'd, take a motion to
Mr.
table
Chairman,
this.
I move that we table item number 7, the personal services agreement contract approval, as you have discussed, until the meeting next week.
Any discussion?
It's just real quick, looking at those numbers, they're awfully high. I mean, we have doctors that are now being let off from Peace Health by the numbers. I would think that we'd be able to get somebody a lot less expensive to do that job.
Well, I hope you come back here next Tuesday.
Any others? I see no hands. I would call for a vote on the motion to table. All in favor?
Aye.
I also vote aye. We will table that. Okay, before we head into public comments, couple updates. We talked about, and I have it here. Last week, we had a letter on there, the Governor Inslee appointed a person to what is called Boundary Line Review Board. And the question came up, how does the governor appoint that? So I actually pulled it up, and it's a Washington State Boundary Review Board for Cowlitz County. So it's Washington State Committee, and the appointees are actually, there's 5 members of this committee. 2 of them are appointed by the governor. 1 is appointed by the cities. 1 is appointed by what they call a special district, and 1 is basically an other. So I don't know if the county appoints that person or not. So it's a committee set by the state of Washington for Cowlitz County, but it appears to me we don't have a whole lot of say in who sits on that. So that's what I found out from last week. The other thing we had Senator Wilson in last week, and you heard him talk about the Blake fix, and that didn't happen. And they're hoping, maybe not, a special session to fix that. His suggestion was, and law enforcement is already working on it, is counties could set their own ordinances for that. And I can tell you from conversations, just general conversations with the sheriff and a couple of our chiefs, that they are working on that and working with the judges, and there will be, if they don't go in and have a special session and do a Blake fix, that even up through the Sheriff's Association, through Washington State, there's a lot of people working on making sure that we have the ordinance in these counties, and it would all come before the county at some time, and you try to give you plenty of notice and have time to review that and look that over. So that was a question that came up, and it is being worked on.
Yeah, the timeline on that would be, the legislature has until the end of July. And as we get closer to July, we'll probably have some more discussions. So at the earliest, I would think it would be late August that we'd have anything done, more than likely beyond September.
Yeah. But I just wanted everybody to know that that is on the radar, and it is already opening discussions for that, because there is concern for sure.
Yeah, this may seem like an easy thing, but there are a lot of consequences that can happen by how, if there's no unanimity between the counties, we're going to see some interesting behavior. And I've said, even though I'm in favor of legalization of drugs, you can't get there from here. If we were to legalize drugs here, we destroy the county. So we can't do that. Then the next issue is, what is the next intelligent step to do? And I'm actually, and I'm throwing this out so that people can chew on it, I'm actually thinking having some rather severe draconian measures in place such that people will not think it's easy to come to Cowlitz County and misbehave. Because frankly, the correlation of drug usage and misbehavior is huge. You cannot ignore that.
Yeah. The other thing I have for you is a WashDOT news release. SR 433 Lewis and Clark Bridge closed Sunday, July 16 for up to 8 days. So it's a press release now. I don't know if you want me to read the.
No, there are a couple items on there. If you're a bicyclist or a pedestrian, you probably can get by during those days. They're apparently going to change some, or lift, there'll be holes in the bridge, and you'll be able to look down and see a great distance down. Anybody in for high diving?
Yeah. Replace 2 bridge expansion joints and a fractured floor beam. Pedestrians, bicyclists, and emergency responders will be able to cross the bridge during the closure, except during the small window when the floor beam is being replaced. In other words, there's going to be a hole. So, July 16th for 8 days, no access. Okay. Any other updates before we turn it over?
This may be a good time to call out that I received a phone call from the Surface Transportation Board from Washington, DC, saying, please send us a notice canceling your previous request to ask for an extension for our Rails to Trails program. You recall from last time we spoke on it, without a clause that says the county will assume all liability and has the dollars in place to do something with that, we will not be granted an NITU, a notice interim trail use. And there was a polite request, please send us a close this out kind of letter. So that's what we have put together, and actually maybe the clerk has a copy. You could read the letter. It's voluminous at I think 2 sentences or close to it. And I think the intent, my intent on that would be to put that in the consent agenda for next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. Yeah. It basically says it's to Ms. Cynthia T. Brown, Chief of the Section of Administration Office of Proceedings. You know, they have huge titles back there. The BOCC, Board of County Commissioners, respectfully withdraws our request made on March 30, 2023 to the Surface Transportation Board for a notice of interim trail use in the above entitled proceeding for the approximately 7-mile rail line between mile post 1.5 at Longview and mile post 8.5 at Ostrander Junction in Cowlitz County, Washington, owned and operated by Columbia and Cowlitz Railway. We appreciate your help and attention to this matter. Please contact me if you have any questions. Pretty simple.
Yeah, so you'll get to look at it again next week on the consent agenda.
Okay.
I think that's all I had.
Let me. I was checking if there's anything super exciting this afternoon you want to come for. So we'll open it to the public comments. Councilman.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jim Hill, Kelso City resident of Cowlitz County. And I'm not here per normal to complain about any actions that the Board of Commissioners has taken, nor am I here to ask for money. So I want to allay your concerns. What I am here to do this morning is to talk once again about the Creative Arts District designation that I'm attempting, along with some other folks, to obtain, and to tell you that we have entered into the application process with the State of Washington, Department of Commerce, specifically Arts Washington. That group oversees allocations of funds to municipalities for the development of arts to promote all sorts of not only artistic, but other things like festivals and different celebrations and things. It's basically a source of income to promote a city and an area. So we've begun to talk directly to the state. We hope to have folks from Arch Washington attend a conference on May 24th, which we would welcome you as individuals. We realize as BOCC, you can't come as BOCC, but as individuals, we'd like you to attend that conference. We anticipate inviting a number of fraternal organizations, 501s. We'd like to get business community, especially who's going to benefit greatly from this designation, to attend as well. I want to make it very clear, the certification of a creative arts district does not require local tax dollars. These are dollars that the Department of Commerce and the folks in Olympia have, and we're attempting to get those dollars back to us, promote local businesses, tourism, programs for kids, you name it. The upside is potentially, we can't estimate it. The downside is that we do nothing to develop our economic growth, not only in Kelso, but all of the county communities, frankly. So this is an issue that there shouldn't be any concerns about. This is going to enhance our area. And let's face it, Cowlitz County has a lot to offer. We need the dollars to promote it. It's that simple. Secondarily, without the Creative Arts District, Arts for Kids program that I've addressed many times to not only the commission, but also to local governments. We all know kids are in a terrible place. And one of the most beneficial programs that kids can be involved in is creative arts. Whatever you define it as, it's important. It gives them safe harbor. It can do a lot for kids, not sole solution for the problems that kids today face. And let's face it, we adults created this world. Unfortunately, those kids are going to inherit it. Here's an opportunity to do some real positive things for kids. But without CAD, we are not going to ever put together the Arts for Kids program. It's that simple. We need the small businesses to be the outlets for the production of all of the creative things that the kids in the arts program can produce, and sell. They're going to benefit economically as well, not just the small businesses, but the kids themselves would. Nevertheless, the bottom line here is, as individuals and as a BOCC, I'd encourage you to produce a letter when the time is right that we can have accompany our application for the CAD program, and that you would attend as individuals and interested parties only, not as the BOCC, the conference that we're going to be holding. You also are leaders in the local communities in which you reside. We'd like you to talk to the leadership in your individual communities and encourage them to participate. We need everyone's support, gentlemen. Lastly, I want to address something that Commissioner Mortensen brought up. Over the weekend, I attended the largest gathering North American Indian tribes in New Mexico. I attended multiple conferences there as well for reservation Indians as well as urban Indians. Topic one in our conferences was drugs and kids. Common to all of us in this country. I have absolutely been convinced that unless we divert the next generation, the kids, the young folks from drugs, we face a catastrophe unknown before in our history. And Arts for Kids is part of that, but also the wonderful organizations that are working to divert kids away from it. You know yourself about Karen in Castle Rock, I'm sure, Epic in Longview, Highlander Hope and Kelso. All these organizations are internal to the school districts, but they do marvelous work. But gentlemen, drugs and kids, I don't have any solutions beyond, we got to try to come up with as many programs as we can that will keep our kids diverted from, engaging in the use of, and basically destroying their lives. Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
Just some comments.
Go ahead.
We have spent a fortune on failing programs, as you know, so we do need to think outside the box. This is in some sense back in the old box, if you will. Like if you think of the Boys and Girls Clubs, that would have been a good place to have a potter's wheel, have things that are art orientated. We kind of don't have that anymore. At least I don't know of any. And you can't take drugs away without having a substitution, and that substitution has to be very attractive and pretty clever. And I don't quite know what that is, but you and I have talked about art before, and I think we're becoming one of the things about technology is there's a polarization. You need far fewer people to do the technological things, or I mean, you have far fewer people to produce food, housing, all that kind of stuff. Those people are given essentially the golden opportunity in life to pursue their own dreams. That's the euphemism for art. And I think we will see continued emphasis on art. How to go about that, I don't know. Art has changed a lot because of technology, and we've talked a little bit about that. The animation, some of the videos we see are just remarkably well done, and they're done by kids. So I'm not sure that helps any. I was going to ask or say, when we allocate $1 of taxpayer funding somehow, or and that applies only to taxpayer funding, I really look for evidence that says you're going to get back at least $1, otherwise it's not sustainable. You made some assertions that this art program is pretty important to the commerce in the area. I would love to see some believable evidence. I don't care where it comes from, but if you can have that, that makes us stronger spokesmen out there.
I would direct you, Commissioner, to Arts WA on the internet and look up the Creative Arts District information that's available online. And I would encourage you to come and speak with the state representatives when we have our conference on the 24th. If you take a look at what Creative Arts District certification has done in other communities, it's unbelievable. I mean, it truly is unbelievable.
You do know that we are assaulted here on a daily basis with claims of all kinds of things. So you've looked at this and you think those are believable.
Oh, absolutely. Not only that, I've contacted a number of cities that have sought this all the way back in 2014, all the way to date, who have sought this designation, this certification, and asked them for specifics of what was accomplished. And to I mean, gentlemen, don't take my word for it. Do the research online yourself from the state. And if you question anything, any of their results that they've published, please contact them directly. I can tell you this, I honestly believe from the conversations that I've had with other communities, this is something that is of great benefit economically. Small businesses, tourism in general, making us a destination point, making us a place where people really want to come, because let's face it, there's very few counties in the state that offer the amenities that we do. It's that simple.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate the time.
We appreciate your time.
Good morning, Commissioners. A follow-up on the Blake fix as started last week. There's been one whale of a lot of rhetoric in the past week on that, not only here, but throughout the state in other counties, et cetera. So I would certainly hope that we and the other counties of the state aren't waiting until January 1st to get a recommendation out. Is that we should be able to collaboratively with the other counties and other law enforcements through our sheriff and their associations to get out a recommendation on what can be done to help the law enforcement in this state. And secondly, we know that every state and every county in this country have been, I was going to say affected, not infected, but both by the millions of illegal immigrants coming across the border. And they have a no lose. They get caught, they sent back, and they're here again, as we hear in the news again. So there needs to be some recommendations on handling this process. I talked to the sheriff and they don't know what's coming in. They don't know what is it. And you talk about drugs. One is the source of drugs that certainly reduces that impact.
If I might make a comment on that,
Go ahead.
don't go away thinking that our legislators of the 19th and the 20th aren't offering suggestions, changes and all that. We don't wait here until July 31st or January or whatever it is. It's just that the other side, there's a conflict going on between what I would call, I don't like to use a lot of labels, but we aren't being listened to very closely. They don't assume that they don't assume our problems. They don't assume responsibility for our problems. The bottom line is we're doing what we can and we're not silent, even though there isn't a deadline, the deadlines.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Well, I've never done this before, and I've never been at a council meeting in my life, and I'm 61 years of age, and my name is Robert Johnson.
You need to come a bit closer here and
Is the light on?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
anonymity is perfectly acceptable. You're not required to identify anything.
Okay. Well, I'm just here to speak in behalf of what I've witnessed the last 5 months and with the Sheriff's Department of Cowlitz County. And their action and their inaction to, like I spoke with you yesterday, I came down here looking for help. Okay, and I brought Miss Joanna Barnhart with me also. I got 5 or 6 police reports. I live in Castle Rock, Washington at an RV park up off of exit 52. It's called Paradise Cove RV Park. It's not a pretty place, but I've been there for 12 years. Well, I have called the cops in regards to these managers that we have 9 state's attorney's complaints against. And Ms. Barnhart also has a restraining order against one of the family members because he accosted her in the park. And she's 73 years of age. I also got a restraining order against the same individual, Doug Ralph Hatley Jr. The police reports that I requested on public records, when I saw the statements by the officers, they were either incomplete totally, or they actually weren't providing the documentation that we even talked about. And I ordered some of the digital copies, and I'm going by the court's house today because I just talked to Bree Harvick down at the courthouse, and I guess the IT is back up, which has been down for a month. Me and Joanna Barnhart went in and met Officer Stump in regards to this in the courthouse. And he pretty much told us, he actually mentioned to Joanna, you probably should just move, even if you got victimized. We talked to Officer Troy Bretfield. And Joanna had a restraining order against these individuals. 5 sheriffs responded. They said, oh, it doesn't look like it was served, the restraining order. It had been in effect for probably 3 months prior to this incident. And so all these sheriffs show up and they don't even look at Joanna's restraining order that's in her hand. And it turns out, if anybody knew how to read and comprehend grammar, they would have seen that he didn't need to be served because the judge scratched it out and said, don't need to be served because he was in court already and understood the restraining order. He had showed up for court. Well, Officer Doyle of the Sheriff's Department, and this is when we got flipped off in front of our residents by this subject, this person, Doug Ralph Hatley. And they were protecting him because they're friends of his. Okay, and if you read these statements, you'll see the words, the verbiage they use actually indicts them on it. And then also the managers are going around saying they're friends of the Sheriff's Department. Well, these so-called managers have been charged with attempted murder, assault, fraud, a sodomy of a 12-year-old below the age of 12. And we are getting no protection whatsoever from the Sheriff's Department. We requested to talk to Brad Thurman, which I voted for, and Judge Hayes was the restraining order issuer. Well, I tell you what we heard from Troy Bretfield. He said Judge Hayes is new and obviously doesn't know what he's doing because he scratched that out. Now, you gentlemen, and Miss Barnhart will talk too. She's 73 years of age and was accosted in that park. And we have to, I don't know, I guess we have to become sheriffs to get protection. Yes, the state's attorney is going to do whatever it is in regards to the park, but our Sheriff's Department has put us in jeopardy. I ended up in the hospital due to this. And she's also been to the doctor because of the stress level we've been put through by the Sheriff's Department. And if you look at the language they put in the statements, it's like they're against us. And we are going to get some kind of representation and start a GoFundMe page because this has got to stop. Brad Thurman should have had the decency and the respect to call us back. Oh, and furthermore, when I got the restraining order against Doug Hatley Jr., I went into the office of the Sheriff's Department. And these 3 ladies that I know that I've been getting reports from, they're all in coercion together and they protect everybody in that Sheriff's Department. Well, I wanted to have it served, the restraining order, and it was on a Friday. I got in there at 14 minutes of the hour of 5. And they go, oh, we're closing out our till. I said, really? I said, and it's $60 to get the order served. And they wouldn't do it. They would not do it. They said, you're going to have to come back. And all I know is that's retaliation because they already knew what we were pursuing here because we had already noticed many discrepancies. Well, that weekend I went to the hospital down in Portland, Oregon. Okay. The medics came to my place and it's all due to neglect, dereliction of duty, malfeasance. And I don't know what you folks want to do, but I want to request an internal investigation. And if we have to do it from outside Cowlitz County, it needs to be done because me and Joanna are not going to go away and we're not going to be silenced. And there's others involved too. The same parties that are the managers of that park assaulted a 70-year-old last year in his motorhome, punched him through the window of his motorhome, and then they all built statements against him. And I would have to look at my records, but I do have that, but it's not in my case files. It's in another one because I ordered 2 years of police reports. And I'm still, like I said, I got to get the rest of the digital copies because I want everything to provide to you folks. Because I tell you what I've learned, the digital copies, okay? Just by listening to the digital copies, you're going to hear the report. But when you read the police reports from Officer Aguilar, Officer Yeager, Officer Doyle, you're going to find out that none of that is included. Okay? Now, during this time, since I got a restraining order against these individuals, okay, and for reasons of stalking, intimidation, threatening behavior, and I got pictures, photos of it all. They tried to file one against me. Okay, Doug Ralph Hatley Jr. tried to file one against me. Well, the park manager had some guy show up in sweats to deliver it. Okay, well, he lives seven trailers down from my rig. Okay, he's obviously retired or he's on the Brady's list of sheriff's department. And I asked him, what are you doing here? Through my window. And I didn't respond to him. So they had to serve me with the sheriff's department. What I found out later then, come that following week, I was in the courthouse for probably 2 or 3 hours getting more paper. Okay. And this is when they were trying to serve me. My neighbor calls and says, Robert, there's two sheriffs at your rig. So she goes, you may not want to come home. Well, I'm not worried about that because I haven't broken the law. So I came home later, but I wanted to test the situation, folks. So I figured I'd just show up for about 10 minutes and take off and see what the law enforcement officers are doing. Because when I asked for my restraining order to be served, after I had to come in 3 days later because they wouldn't take and do my restraining order in the office that day because it was 4:45, even though I did say, I don't see anything posted in your office about closing the till. And I said to those gals at that time, and there's 3 young ladies in there, I said, so what is your protocol? She goes, well, we do whatever. Well, I think I got dissed that day, actually. And you know what? It put me in harm's way. So there's a lot to this. And so go back to when they were trying to serve me this order. Well, so I took off and obviously they came back again. Well, then I went to go check my mail and Officer Yeager is sitting on the on-ramp of Interstate 5, trying to serve me a restraining order that was actually denied by Judge Hayes, denied. So then I got home and about a minute later, the sheriff was in front of my place. Well, I had walked over to my neighbor's and he didn't even see me and his truck was parked there. So he knocked on my door. Then obviously the manager of the RV park obviously was making contact with him because he's his friend. So Officer Yeager came to my neighbor's door and said, is Robert here? Well, the neighbor answered the door and she said, yes, he is. So I said to Officer Yeager at that time, I said, are you following me? Because it seems like you're following me. I just saw you when I went to the post office in Castle Rock. Mind you, the reason why I went to the post office in Castle Rock is because these people have been tampering with our mail and I turned that into the state's attorney too. Okay. And you know what mail they tampered with? The state's attorney paperwork on the complaints that I filed. And so Officer Yeager goes, Robert, I can just do a stop and drop because I confronted him on the following me stuff. Well, then he said, make sure you follow this order. Well, then I opened that order up and it's denied. Why would somebody take that much intention except to target me or Joanna? And granted, I am a little frustrated and probably I'm coming across a little aggressive and I apologize for that. But when you deal with this for 5 months and you can't sleep and I'm taking anxiety pills and I just took one earlier because I knew I was going to get into a stressful situation and I've never taken anxiety pills in my life. And Brad Thurman doesn't call back. Brad Thurman doesn't care. And Officer Stump tells Joanna, 73 years old, to move when she's on limited income. She's done nothing wrong, but exercise her rights. And so have I, and so have many others. The sheriff's department totally has neglected their duties. And the misconduct, I know one thing about false statements and putting stuff in there that isn't even. And this is the other thing, when they flipped us off on March 4th, when we were looking at her car because she hit a deer coming back from Louisiana, she hit it in Wyoming. They flipped us off. Officer Doyle came out and he was the lead officer, even though we had four Suburbans and a Washington Department Fish and Game. He said, when I asked him, I said, well, he said that Doug Ralph Hatley said he flipped me off and not Joanna. Well, she has an active restraining order against Doug Hatley. Okay. But they didn't want to look at it and they didn't care. And then I said, furthermore, what they said is her back was turned and he only flipped me off. Well, we both turned around at the same time. And then I went into my rig and got my phone and called in behalf of Joanna. So then, when Doyle was talking to us, Officer Doyle, I said, well, why don't you take a look at that other camera that faces my rig from the office? He goes, I don't have to do that. And he said he flipped you off, and we looked at the other camera. Well, in the report that he wrote, he said that basically the gentleman flipped off into somewhere where there's nobody even being seen. He didn't talk about flipping me and Joanna off. And then I asked him, I said, well, why don't you look at that camera? He says, well, they didn't say anything about it. I said, go in there and ask them. I said, this is probable cause. You don't need a warrant to go in there and ask them. And they didn't want to do anything about it. So what's next? Does somebody get murdered out there? Does somebody get stabbed? I mean, his wife has been charged with stabbings in the past. And like I said, you can look up their records. Paul Lee French of Klamath Falls, Oregon, and Betty Jean Flowers of Klamath Falls, Oregon. And it's horrific. They've had nothing but crimes for 25 years. And the owners are out of country, but they're supposedly back now. I sent them some letters again yesterday. I hope, all I ask is somebody needs to do an internal investigation with the Sheriff's Department of Cowlitz County Sheriff's Department, Brad Thurman, Officer Stump, Troy Bretfield. Troy Bretfield said that about Judge Hayes. Doesn't know what he's doing because he's new. Their judges are new. You tell me, guys, I don't know where you start, but the only person I've seen in that courthouse that I feel that is safe to talk to is Bree Harvick, the girl that handles the records down in the digital section that you can actually feel comfortable with. The three girls in that sheriff's department, they seem to think they're sheriffs and they're going to protect those sheriffs. I think they're just secretaries. I don't know. Are they badged? Because what we've gotten from them is they don't want to treat us with any kind of respect because we're bringing something forward. And so we indoctrinated statements to all the statements that the police wrote after we seen them. But I have a recorder out in my car if you want to listen, or I have the CDs right here. If you want to listen to the one on February 5th through the 7th, and then read the statement, and it'll correlate exactly what I said. And I'll tell you something, my statements were turned in before I got the CD. So there's no way I would have known what I said on that dispatch until I heard it again, folks. I mean, these guys chased me into my yard and were screaming at me. And all we hear from the cop shop is it's a civil matter. No, it's become more than a civil matter. And from the language I've read in the reports and from what the manager's saying, he's friends with your sheriff's folks. And we don't have there's no impartiality there, none. And we're supposed to be the protected ones. So I don't know what we want to do beyond this point, but I would like to hear from you folks to see what we will do.
I don't know how to begin by saying what you've experienced as you described is horrifying. But we do have a process that we want to follow there. You heard me admonish the gentleman earlier who spoke about the art district, how many promises we get made about everything, and then very few of them ever turn out. And in a similar way, there are oftentimes situations where the public doesn't understand the limitations of law. In my book, the law isn't very good at ferrying it out and ferrying out justice. However, you've got enough detail, but it needs to be organized. If you can put together chapter and verse like the principle, this was violated, and then you go through and you've got point in time, you've got evidence. The evidence you put in an appendix. Here you just outline see appendix A, see appendix B for this evidence. And then you do the next thing, TRO was violated or something like that, or rejected, and you evidence. And then that way it'd be easy for us to go and contact other people and say, here we have this. If we were to present them the video to which, with what you just spoke, you wouldn't get very much of a result, I don't think, because it's too much of a, she said, I said that kind of thing, and you don't want that. You want facts.
Absolutely.
So I think the chairman agreed with you yesterday to set up a meeting that we would do.
Well, it was kind of briefly, and I just walked out and you guys were getting ready to have a meeting.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to interrupt that. And I
Yeah.
didn't know if I should come down here today, but I spoke with Joanna and I said, geez, we better.
This
better
is
go
your
down and make
house. If
Yeah,
your
that's what you
statement,
said yesterday.
yeah, if your statements bring up any issues that other people know about and are concerned about, this is the mechanism that will help you.
Well, I truly think she wants to follow through with me after me. But I think I think what we were concerned about, and we talked about this yesterday. I said, we better make this out in the open because I can't, my question to you folks is, and Rick, Dahl, obviously you're associated or a friend of Brad Thurman's. Because yesterday you mentioned to me that he was on vacation and he was having a new granddaughter or grandbaby. So I'm concerned about that.
Yeah, let me interrupt you there. We could go a long time on this and it won't really achieve much. Let me say something that you probably don't know me enough, but I count my word. My word is very important to me. That gentleman is not going to be swayed by friendship.
That's what I want to know, folks.
Okay, and so I wouldn't lose any sleep over that and not,
Okay, thank you both. Thank you both. Because even yesterday when I left here, I told my neighbor, I said, the older gentleman that came up talked yesterday, I don't know who he is, but he seems all right. Well, you seemed, to me, you just seemed informative and you've been around for a long time. And that's what I want somebody we can trust because
Yeah.
we've had failure after failure here. And the state's attorney is going to come to some kind of agreement on that RV park at the end of the month. And just like I mentioned to you the other day, it turns out these owners, we can't trust either because they said they were going to show up and help and do whatever. But then I found out in the last 2 weeks that they ripped off their restaurant employees for $600,000 in Oregon. And the Department of Labor and Industries has, they had to pay that back July 16th, 2022.
okay,
And
so
this is my point. Who do we trust?
We're working on, I'd said with Kelly yesterday and she's working on a date that we can all get together and
Okay,
sit
Rick,
down with that because
thank you.
this could go on quite a while.
Well, I don't
Today.
want it to go on quite a
Yeah,
while.
yeah.
Trust me, it's already gone on long enough.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry for showing up today because I didn't want you to think I was trying to bombard you but we were concerned that we weren't going to be heard again. And we just don't know. You don't know if you turn right or you turn left because what we've already dealt with. And
understood.
I can promise you, we're gonna listen. We're gonna set that up and
okay,
okay?
okay, thank you, folks.
And the good
Thank
thing
you.
is you got everybody here saying you promised.
Yeah.
Well, no, I do appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Once again, I'm Jim Hill, and I want to add something, and I'll do this very briefly. Commissioner Mortensen, you may remember in years past, I appeared before you asking the county to consider impaneling a committee that would hear grievances from tenant landlords associations, all of the issues. The gentleman just addressed those things. That wasn't a realistic proposal. But in the years since, I've become aware of an organization that actually involves itself with landlord tenant specific to manufactured home parks grievance resolution. So I'd be more than happy to put this individual in contact with that group. I have spent a long time visiting hours and hours with Ferguson's AG's office. Very familiar with the process. I'm also involved statewide with the Manufactured Home Association. We were very fortunate, and thank you to Senator Jeff Wilson for helping pass 5968 this year. But we saw some progress in terms of protections being offered to manufactured home owners and resolution of difficulties. No question about it. There were a lot of issues there. These, for the most part, have been resolved civically in the past. This sounds a little bit different, but nevertheless, there are organizations locally, the primary one being the group that I spoke about, made up of volunteers who spend their time mediating issues between landlords and tenants in manufactured homes. They also do apartments and housing rental situations as well. But there is a local group of some strength, Brook Hollow Manufactured Home Association, that I'd like to put these folks in touch with as well. One of the residents there is the vice president of the statewide organization. The statewide organization participates nationally as well in manufactured homeowners association groups and HOAs and those folks. So I just want to contribute that. There are lots of contacts that these folks may not be aware of that can help them in the issues. And these are non-governmental folks. These are just interested parties. So I'll give him my card. He can contact me. We'll put him in touch with those folks and maybe that will help. Thank
Okay,
you.
appreciate that. Just to be sure, we know that what you're talking about is in some sense a class action suit against bad behavior in the private sector, if you will.
By
I'm a
the ownership
landlord,
and
I'm mistreating
management.
you. Okay, he's got a far more complicated situation, but he can certainly take advantage of that, I'm sure.
You know, sometimes we just need folks that understand what we're talking about to
I appreciate you
discuss
stepped
things
up.
with.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to make something clear. I don't have anything against police officers or sheriffs or anything like that. I know we need them, but we also need good ones. And then, like I said the other day, I mentioned to you, my buddy is Steve Ryder, got shot in 1994 up in Linwood. Me and him were apprentices together in the carpet, linoleum, soft tiles trade in Seattle.
Yeah,
Before he became an officer.
if I could interrupt you, I don't know, is this helpful?
No, I just want you to know that I'm coming here in a good faith deal, not anything in regards to law enforcement, except what I've experienced.
Until proven otherwise, I assume all that.
Okay.
I assume that there's an honest effort here,
Okay,
and I assume there's an honest effort there. Somewhere there's a breakdown and we try to find out.
okay.
And that's what you're asking for
Yeah,
essentially.
it's not like no vendetta or anything of that fashion. It's just based on what results we've
Yeah.
witnessed.
Yeah.
That's okay? Just-
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Afternoon or good morning. I was here last week after a 3-day operation, which I was not doing real well. And I did a lot of cussing. But being Mrs. Blondin has been convicted and lost her bar license about the stuff that I've been complaining about. I think this is fairly pertinent. She's committed real estate fraud amongst all the other stuff. Listed my ranch as a one-bedroom house with no outbuildings on 78 acres. In reality, it's a 3.5, 3-bedroom house, 2.5 baths, an $80,000 barn, which they did not include, along with other assets. They evaluated my property with one of their evaluators at $300,000. I have a certified evaluation at $1.4 million. Mrs. Blondin has committed a felony at this point, and I will be filing charges at the sheriff's office on a felony on Mrs. Blondin and asking for her arrest.
Just a quick question about that. You get a tax bill on that property, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the assessed value is?
I don't know about the county's assessed value. The county's involved, and they may be the one that listed it as a one-bedroom house. The prosecuting attorney's involved in this.
Yeah,
case.
let's skip all that. Just tell me.
They did this with Google Earth. Google Earth said it's worth 600,000. Another one said it's worth $800,000. The sheriff's report said it's worth $500,000.
The county is supposed to do a proper valuation of all property on an annual basis, and we stand on our heads to try and make that be as defensible as possible, and you pay your property tax based on that. So
No, actually, I've been stopped from doing it for 8 years, has not seen the property taxes or anything else on my farm because they won't let me. All according to Blondin, has kept me off of my farm for 8 years, my
Wow.
only living.
I didn't realize that was possible.
Oh, yeah, using a false sheriff's report. They
In this county?
gave me a restraining order against my property for a lifetime. Absolutely insane to stop me from being a political witness in the Jim O'Hagan case. Failed to turn me loose with the Superior Court judge's order to come out of jail. Who do that? Also, you've messed me up here. Was held in solitary confinement for 6 months by Lewis County Courthouse. No people in, no people out, no phone calls in, no phone calls out. Not even my boss. I was the only truck driver for the company. She let me out when I was arrested and picked me up. The county says they only held me 90 days.
Do
A bunch of lying bastards.
What was the date approximately? Are we talking 2020, 2021?
Must be about 2020. And it's all to cover up election frauds. And they're holding my farm's assets, $1.5 million Blondin has for 8 years in a divorce that is one guy, one woman, one piece of land, no kids, 5 lawyers, $60,000, and they couldn't make it. Cowlitz County. All fraud. A sheriff's report, all fraud. You have the sheriff's department, get a hold of me. We have a grand jury investigation with Virginia Shogun, the attorney on the sheriff's department in Cowlitz County. Yes, you do. My phone number is 360-442-9175. 9175.
Thank you, sir, very much.
Now, I can,
Next week, I'm going to bring 10 exhibits in here. I'm going to put the exhibits on a screen that you guys will provide for me. And I'm going to prove everything I say is true beyond the shadow of a doubt. No human being normal would not see it a crime, a kidnapping and a murder cover-up by the Cowlitz County Sheriff's Department, helping Lewis County Sheriff. Keeping my assets, going after my family, all using this courthouse. You've known about it for 7 years, aren't? I've served the county 3 times. Mysteriously, the commissioners don't get the paperwork. So I kind of look at it by people's actions instead of what their mouth does. And in this county, on my country road, there's a few houses. 101 people on the whole road. Out of that road, within my house, 6 or 7 houses, there's 4 estate takeovers that have been going on for years, taking over people's assets and property. This is going on all over the county with this courthouse and these lawyers stealing the future generation's assets, using this courthouse, taking over estates. Mine included.
When,
They took 140 acres from me in an estate war over the Harvey Daniels case. I'll be addressing this too, and I'm going to find out how many estates are taken over by attorneys and held for years in this county, all funded by this courthouse.
what is this courthouse?
Commissioners fund the courthouse.
Are you talking
Could be
the
wrong.
the Cowlitz County Court?
Yes,
Okay. And
the Cowlitz County Courthouse has held my assets for 8 years in a divorce, and as of yet, this land is not for sale.
two points to make here. I hope I can keep them in mind. The first point is we, the commissioners, have no control over the Superior Court people or any other elected.
Do you not own this courthouse? Yes or no?
The answer is it's mostly funded by this county and partly funded by the state.
And you fund the sheriff's department that does the investigations on these crooked lawyers.
That's correct, but you clearly do not understand how things work.
Not entirely, but I will shortly.
Good.
And I have an
I
attorney
encourage
working
that.
on it.
So
And I've served your office 3 times and not one damn thing's been done. And when I
serve,
talk to the other commissioners, yeah, served, I've got the paperwork.
serve my
Your
my
office, commissioner's office. And when I talk to the other commissioners, they don't know anything about it. So what is it? The secretaries just throw it away like this guy said?
Well,
Sheriff's office secretaries throw it away. In my court case, the court clerks turned off the microphones 3 times, so I could not present evidence in the case. Is it just a common practice for the courthouse clerks and stuff to take it upon themselves to make illegal acts?
you know, the answer to that is no. But
Damn rights it's not. I'll be back next week with an attorney and 10 exhibits that will show the corruption in this courthouse. No normal human being will deny it.
And then the other thing you mentioned was that I have known about this for 7 years.
7 years, yes, you have. On the Jim O'Hagan case, you were actually at the courthouse.
What is it that I've known about this?
You've known that they've had my election fraud. You've known that they arrested me. You know
No.
that they have my property. And if you lie about it, I'll bring that paperwork next week.
No. What I
Yeah,
know,
you did.
I was at the Pacific Courthouse.
Yeah, you were 3 times.
And what was that about?
Jim O'Hagan case and the election fraud. And
No,
you
no,
suggested
that
he
case-
take the advice of the attorney and give up the case, giving up all of his rights.
That's,
So I have a problem with you.
see, the problem you've got,
You are not the #1 county commissioner. That guy is. What the hell are you doing talking all the time?
You know, we're gonna
Let's
have
get
to
it
bring,
together.
we don't. If you want to argue a point, that's fine, but personal attacks, we just don't need to do that here.
I've been
Nobody's
notifying
trying
this
to,
Courthouse for 8 years.
You're-
They've been doing this.
but
And not one thing has been done. And I've been
and
up,
you're expecting the
and I've
commissioners
been
to
to
do
your-
something over the courthouse?
and I've been to your group too.
Yeah.
And none of this has ever been addressed. Yet Blondin has been now convicted and disbarred for doing the same damn thing to other people. But yet you don't address it to me because it's a political crime.
Well, I don't,
Well, not enough. I'll be here next week with 10 exhibits. Art.
Anybody else?
Excuse me?
You gotta take it outside. I might.
For the record, I'm Mike Kaiser and I reside in unincorporated Cowlitz County in the Castle Rock area. Somewhere close to you, Rick. If we go
I
through
know
the
it.
woods.
I know it.
Anyhow, I apologize for having a long absence from attending these meetings. There always seems to be something else to do until you read the paper a few days later and darn, I should have been there.
What can be more important than us, Mike?
Well, having breakfast, I guess. Anyhow, first thing I want to comment on is motion by item number 7. There are 3 motions you could have done to take care of that, Commissioner Mortensen, and with what you did, you never tabled to a specific time. That would be a motion to postpone definitely. So you can table, postpone indefinitely, postpone definitely. Not that it makes a lot of difference, just for the record, there are 3 ways to do it. If you want to do it to a time certain, you got to postpone definitely. What I wanted to ask you mostly about was the building code. I know you guys have made a real cottage industry of not accepting things that have strings attached. Are there strings attached to the building code? i.e., does the state make you do this? Could have you used the building code from the past, going back 3 years or 12 years or 30 years? In the last couple of months, there's been a lot of stuff in the paper about housing in Cowlitz County, and you can look at the Times or the Columbia and see what's going on, everywhere in the state. Buildings going up everywhere. But with this new building code, it's going to substantially increase the price of building a house with things that are probably very unnecessary. Now, did we have to adopt this new one, or could we kept the current one that we're under right now? And the reason I go back to this, I've had 60,000 foot of commercial building permits in the last 15 to 25 years. 20 years ago for a thing, there was 3 building codes in the United States, the IBC, the UBC, and the Southern. Now it's all rolled into the IBC. And they all were 3 books about this thick, and they all said about the same thing. But do we have to take the new one, which takes effect July 1st, or could we stay on the one we were currently on? Or go back even 3 years beyond that? And are there strings attached to make you accept the new one and move forward?
Boy, Mike, I don't know that I have any answers to that.
I didn't figure you would, but I
Yeah.
wanted to pose the question in
But-
public because I don't have the answer either. And I
Yeah.
haven't taken any time to go read the building codes or read what the statutes of the state of Washington are, which requires these things to be done. But
You
I
say
mean, it's something. to
July
think about.
1st, you're
I
saying?
believe that's what it said in the paper, the new building code, because it takes effect every 3 years. And it's usually about 3 years behind. So when the new building code comes online, it was one that was put together 3 years ago, and it's just on a rotating basis by the time it goes through the federal and the state and then gets to the local level and you guys adopt it. And then there's some time before it takes effect. There usually is a 3-year lag time from when the IBC people put this together.
I'll do some research on it. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, Gracie Jackson's on as an attendee. If she has anything to say, maybe she can comment on it. Meanwhile, we are faced forever with issues that are the legislature doing things like 5599 is a really popular one now, but all the gun regulations. Like I've said before, English is not my first language, but I read Article 1, Section 24 is pretty darn clear. That's the shall not infringe clause of the state of Washington. Yet we allow all these things to happen. At some point, and I've made this argument before, the only way we can change things is if we pack this room and if we have protests,
And put up your hand and say enough's enough.
peaceful protests and say, but we are, for example, Department of Licensing, we have the $30 car tabs. You know what happens if the auditor doesn't do her job? That contract, if you will, gets taken away from the county and someone else will administer it. I'm not sure how to break that, but I have said any number of times, election time is when you can put some sensible people in. Has that happened? Very seldom. I think this time that we did.
Anyhow, I got one more thing on the, for what it's worth. I think it was Channel 8 last night. They were rolling out this new housing unit in Portland. Granted, that's not Cowlitz County, but I think it's related, housing. It's called Waterleaf Apartments. And it's got a really good location right down by the Willamette River. And I'm going to try and drive down there and see it someday. And a studio goes for in the low 4s and a 1-bedroom goes in the low 5s. There's 178 units, and they finally did say what it cost, $78 million. Yeah.
Yeah. It's good to see you, Mike. Don't be a stranger. Anybody else?
I just wanted to make my comment concerning these creative arts districts. I had a conversation with Jim Hill, and what he told me sounds like it's worth researching. We talked about how it could turn out and the kinds of things that could be involved. I'm not clear about where the money comes from that the state would give. So
What?
after seeing the recording fees, I think that needs to be investigated, that it's not somebody's money that's been stolen through illegal legislation. But I really think there's a lot of potential. And it kind of fits in with what was talked about concerning the fairgrounds and the convention center and so on. And there was a lot of excitement here about some possibilities of having more events and things to support hotel type deal. So I'm kind of looking forward to what might come out of that. But I am concerned about how it's funded, what that source is.
Well, the source at some point in time is always the taxpayer. Whether now or future generations of taxpayers, which is really sad in my book, but
Well, if it comes from the taxes, I understand that. That's a proper way, but when it comes from a fee.
yeah,
It's supposed to be designated for a certain thing, trips off the individual.
I understand.
Quite lively today, isn't it? Well, I'm going to be sedate for once. Last week, you had a meeting of the Cowlitz County Health Department Board,
Yes,
and a certain appointee popped up who I hadn't thought of in over 13 years. You heard other citizens talk about our legal community and disbarment. And unfortunately, I've been around long enough that I think my comment last week was, I'm shocked about your appointee. But I'm not gonna go on because I have to deal with the local legal community because I just got served here in the meeting room. And so now I have to go deal with the local law or local justice system, the courts and whatnot. So I'll just leave you with this public record on your appointee that was hard to get because technology failed at the Longview Public Library. And the local newspaper is now proprietary, so you have to subscribe to get any newspaper articles on anything. So I'll just leave you with the report from the Washington Bar Association that was quoted in this article about your appointee. And there are further ones that go back to the 1990s, but it doesn't look like I'll have time to give you copies. So I'll just leave you with these.
okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name's Joanna Barnhart. I'm here. I would just like to reiterate that on Thanksgiving Day of last year, the person in the park, Doug Hatley, came to my door, knocked on my door and told me that I was really speeding too fast in the park. I told him he needed to leave my residence. He started calling me filthy names, told me I need to leave the park. And I called 911. She told me he was about that close to me, shaking his fist in my face. I'm a heart patient. I thought I was going to have a heart attack that day. And I was advised to get a restraining order. I have a restraining order against him. But the police, the day that I went down for dinner on Thanksgiving Day, I called over there and they weren't going to do anything. My niece intervened in the interim and she talked to the police and told them that I was really upset, and stuff. So I feel very threatened to be in the park because on the 4th of March, they came out, they didn't do anything. They didn't even want to look at my restraining order. So I do feel that they are in negligence. What good is it doing the court to give us protection orders if they're not being obeyed? I mean, I'm doing everything I can to stay away from this person, but he is just intentionally antagonizing me and Robert and several of the other folks, but then the manager is a different person. He has those people afraid to do anything. And now I'm being considered a troublemaker where I live because I've done as I was told to get the protection order because I was told by the policeman, it's only going to get worse, Ms. Barnhart, if you do not. So I just would really like it to be where the police, should have a more active part in when we call about a disturbance over our protection orders, that they should come and really investigate it more and try to provide us with more security. I'm staying away from my home day and night because I'm afraid to stay there at night, and I stay in my home most of the day. I feel like I'm confined to my home, so I don't have to come in confrontation with them, and stuff. So maybe if I don't know what you can do about it, but just enforce it more to where they should be more, open to the people with the restraining orders, That's what I'd like to say. Thank you.
Appreciate you getting up there. Anybody? I don't see any online. Any final comments on? Appreciate the attendance today. Appreciate all the comments. I obviously some of them are fairly serious and hard to deal with, but we appreciate them no matter what they are. So seeing no other people come, no hands, we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you.